Coming up, I couldn't help but be impressed by Angela Rayner's performance standing in for Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Questions this week. She made Dominic Raab look every inch the turnip he is. She challenged his recent holiday antics during the Taliban takeover of Afghanistan and skewered this government's record on national insurance hikes, the universal credit cut, NHS funding and the lack of adequate planning for the gas shortage. The next day, Keir Starmer published a 12,000-word essay which underlined for me, 1, just how lacking in substance his vision for the Labour Party really is, and 2, why the Labour Party isn't 20 points ahead in the polls against the worst government of my lifetime that's presiding over rampant corruption, an ongoing Brexit crisis, the second highest tax burden in history when we're not even at war, and rebellion in its ranks. In this video, we take a look at Labour's chances of returning to government under Keir Starmer. Stay tuned. In the last couple of weeks, this government has broken manifesto pledges by hiking national insurance for 25 million workers and dumping the triple lock for pensioners already on one of the lowest state pensions in Europe. It has also refused to get Brexit done quite yet by kicking the Brexit can down the road until next year, breaking international agreements to implement import controls on goods coming from the EU. It has also lost yet more legal action taken against it by the Good Law Project, being forced to release private email messages sent and received by former Health Secretary Matt Hancock and ex-Health Minister Lord help us, James Bethell, pertaining to potential corruption connected with the awarding of around £1.2 billion of PPE contracts through Bethell's VIP lane that he'd set up for Tory cronies, associates and donors. I could go on, but despite all this Tory corruption, incompetence, dishonesty, law-breaking and penalising the less well-off in society through regressive taxation and benefit cuts, despite all that, Labour still don't have a clear lead in the polls. So let's take a closer look at their leader, Keir Starmer, and consider whether there is any way that he can get the Tories out come the next election. Although my personal politics are probably closer to Jeremy Corbyn than Keir Starmer, I was willing to give Starmer a chance. But his Corbyn-esque refusal to oppose Brexit, plus the multiple occasions when he has failed to oppose government motions during the pandemic, led to me quitting the Labour Party last year. And Starmer is still failing to provide a proper opposition. Labour recently abstained in a parliamentary vote on the pensions triple lock, and Starmer has barely mentioned the £20 universal credit cut. His response to the government's social care announcement had to be prized out of him by Beth Rigby in an embarrassing Sky News interview. This government announcement was an open goal, as it was all about raising revenue mainly from the less well-off, no additional taxes on the wealthy, and worst of all, no detailed plan on how this money robbed from the poor was going to be spent, other than an admission that most of it won't immediately go on the social care system, which was meant to be the purpose and the justification for it. And don't think I'm a Corbynista kicking Keir Starmer, as I'm not. I think both Labour leaders were out of their depth, though I do think Corbyn was more effective than Starmer has been, forcing Cameron, if you remember, into U-turns on cuts to tax credits in 2016 and on personal independence payments for disabled people. Starmer has failed to oppose this rotten government at all. But not only is he failing to hold the outlaws in government to account, he's even kicking off a civil war within his own party just before its conference. He wants to change the way future Labour leaders are elected in what is seen as an attempt to block any future hard left-winger being appointed. He's still withholding the party whip from Jeremy Corbyn in what is now a running sore within the party, and got Blairite David Evans appointed as Labour's General Secretary, an appointment opposed by the unions and seen as a centrist power grab. Starmer, let's not forget, was elected to the leadership on a policy platform more like that put forward by Jeremy Corbyn, but also promising party unity. 18 months later, it looks like the Parliamentary Labour Party is moving towards the centre and alienating the most loyal of its supporters on the left. In America, Joe Biden has been radical. He's passed a $2 trillion stimulus bill and has appointed left-wing radicals to prominent positions. By contrast, all Starmer has done is promise to repair the public finances if elected and appointed centrists to positions of power within the party. Following Brexit, England alone is polarised, and UK-wide you have the added polarisation of Scottish and Welsh independents and the loyalist v nationalist factions in Northern Ireland. Rather than trying to unify, I think that Starmer should be offering a credible alternative for the majority of the electorate who wish to rejoin the customs union and the single market, and rather than drafting essays consisting of cliches borrowing from Tory notions of hard-working families, security and opportunities, instead we need an opposition leader who is setting out radical policies that offer a genuine alternative to the Victorian policies inflicted on us by Johnson's government. So come on, Keir, let's see some radical policy proposals on Brexit, nationalisation of public transport, energy and water, an end to the creeping privatisation of the NHS, implementation of a proper living wage, and an end to the £1 billion taxpayer subsidies of poorly paying employers. A commitment to prosecute all those Tory ministers and cronies who have participated in the robbing of the public purse during the pandemic. And an end to government subsidies for fossil fuels and animal products. I can't imagine any of that coming from the mouth of Keir Starmer, but it's exactly what I would expect to come from the mouth of a future Labour leader in the shape of Angela Rayner.